Hello and welcome. I'd just like to do a video about my Tez storylines. I want to show you some of my artwork, show you what I'm capable of, and tell you a little bit basically about the storylines, etc. An introduction to this superhero. As you can see, he's clearly called the Tez, and that's a start, basically. Anyway, I've created well over 100 characters, and the story's a very interesting and fun story. Basically, Tez is a hero that travels the multiverse. These are a few unfinished pictures, you know. Maybe I should upload them when they're all done, but Tez's main enemy is the evil Lord Skullgon, and he has a great many battles with this baddie. You should see him in the full colour. He looks pretty awesome. This is a pic from the third book, actually, where Tez gains this armour. But in case you're wondering who he really is, well, the Tez is, you could say, a superhero that is actually on the autism spectrum. The interesting thing about I found wanted to do as somebody that is on the autism spectrum, I found it interesting that there's a hero that can be a complete outsider. You see, a lot of the heroes live very lonely lives. So how about a hero that who is already an outsider, who has to pretend to live almost a normal life, but he can never do that? That's interesting, because I find that personally quite relatable, because you do have to wear this mask almost sometimes. You do have to keep pretending to be something you're not. You see, that's the real mask. Is you have to pretend to be whatever a normal person is supposed to be. But if you had great powers, etc., and you go to different worlds where you never belong in them, that's interesting, because as somebody that is on the autism spectrum, obviously you find yourself very much alone, and you feel distant from the world around you. Those are a matter of undeniable facts. Don't get me wrong, I've got great friends, etc., but you get this feeling of loneliness, that you never quite belong. And it's an interesting concept, because when you've got a superhero that is travelling to different worlds, it's an interesting dynamic, you know. You've got a person that is very smart, but has to almost adapt to very many difficult situations, and that's a fascinating dynamic, because obviously you have, in order to live in a world, if you go to another country, for example, you have to adapt to the surroundings in order to fit in. What if you have that feeling that you're a foreigner on a more permanent basis? What if there is no such thing as a normal life? Also, one other aspect of Tez's personality is he does care. He does care about all the people, and he is a very powerful superhero. The main story is that he has to collect these 7 power gems, which pretty much have the powers of the multiverse. But he's not all powerful as such. The power gems do make him extremely powerful, that's true, but his powers vary between dimensions. So he has to adapt with different powers every dimension he goes into. And as you can see, he is often surrounded by hundreds of characters. He does have a fair few allies, obviously, and good friends in the stories. But mainly he's got quite a few terrible enemies, you know, interdimensional tyrants. Pretty much seriously evil bad guys that want to destroy all of reality as we know it. Also villains that have got a great deal of superiority complex, etc. The types of bad guys that are very complex, that want to steal his powers. So there are many variables. When I get, admittedly, the story can be improved on a little bit, but as far as I'm concerned, you'll have to see it for yourselves. I'm going to put a link in the description to the website of my graphic novels. If you're interested, you can have a look. It's entirely up to you. But as you can clearly see, there's tons and tons of ideas that I've got. This is the thing. Personally, I'd like this to take off a bit. I'd like it to see it. If there is anybody watching or anybody curious, I'd like to have any feedback on it, because it's something I'm really passionate about. I love all sci-fi, all fantasy. I loved the Marvel movies, etc. By the way, the Infinity Stones and the Power Gems are completely different things. Marvel Universe is a complete another thing, and I'm definitely not copyrighting anything that I'm not aware of, okay? Just to be clear on that. I should say all the villains and all characters and creations belong to me, and they are my creations. So yeah. However, if anybody's got some great ideas of how they can include themselves in this universe, because I think it would be quite interesting if other people who love comic books and superheroes as much as I do would be happy to collaborate or something. Just to think, you know, I mean, this is like a multiverse, for example, for the sake of argument. So you can have very interesting stories, and Tez is definitely a character that is not only a person that causes conflict, but someone that is very interesting and clever. This does need a fair bit of work, this picture, but I will be working on that. But yeah, this is the thing. Throughout this, I've already done a trilogy of graphic novels. I'm pretty pleased with them, even though I would say they do need a lot of colour work. And I think some parts of the story are just a little bit on the need of tweaking as such. I'm still very proud of them, considering that I've done this entirely on my own without any chatting to anybody, based on my own studies of superheroes, etc. As you can see, this would be an interesting universe. Yep. These characters here are the 7 Guardians of the Power Gems. They have got a very interesting backstory. There's a lot to it. I'm not going to go into any depth in this video. I'm just introducing you and telling you a bit about the character of the Tez. So, all in all, he's a flawed character for sure. He's on the autism spectrum, so he would have difficulties that are unique to other superheroes. Plus, him struggling to interact with people, etc., and trying to survive in worlds that will never understand him, makes it for interesting storytelling, because that's exactly what a lot of people on the autism spectrum do indeed face. But it's a much more positive story, emphasising how an outsider can have victory over the world and become much more of a better person. Because all heroes need to grow, and Tez certainly does that. He has to grow in many, many ways. Oh yeah, I should say, this picture, these are what you call the death diamonds. These are the antithesis, I should be very clear here, the death diamonds. These are the antithesis to the power gems. In other words, Tez's kryptonite as such. These have got an interesting backstory that it's almost like they are their own entity. Anyway, I'm going to wrap up now. Yeah, check out my graphic novels. Check out my videos. You can subscribe, whatever. And have a good day. Take care. Bye.